No one could have imagined that a sparkling necklace, a seemingly harmless piece of jewelry, could turn an entire family upside down. In a warm home nestled in the heart of the city, two sisters, Sophia and Lena, grew up together, sharing everything from childhood dreams to evening meals. But on what seemed like an ordinary morning, everything fell apart. Their mother's precious necklace suddenly went missing, and the first person to be suspected, none other than Sophia. No one listened to her explanation. Lena, with a trembling voice and tear-filled eyes, pointed straight at her younger sister. Their mother was speechless, while their father was so furious that he kicked Sophia out of the house without a single word in her defense. The young girl not only lost her family, but was also branded a thief by society. But there was one thing no one could have predicted: that cruel fall from grace would open the door to an entirely new life for Sophia, a journey not only to prove the truth, but to make the whole world speak her name with admiration. That morning, sunlight streamed gently through the window, golden and peaceful, like every other day. Sophia woke up early and went to the kitchen to make tea for her mother, just like she always did. The young girl had always been introverted, hardworking, and quiet. Her sister Lena, on the other hand, was the life of every gathering, beautiful, outspoken, and clearly more favored by their parents. No one in the family noticed that this small injustice had been growing over the years. But Sophia never complained. She loved her sister with all her heart. She believed that as long as she lived well, their parents would eventually see her. Then the necklace went missing. It was their mother's anniversary gift, carefully kept in a red velvet box, securely locked in a drawer. She discovered it was gone that afternoon after returning from work. The peaceful home suddenly became tense, like a storm was about to hit. "Did anyone touch the things in my room?" their mother asked, her voice cold. Lena looked around fearfully, then her eyes stopped on Sophia. I saw Sophia go into Mom's room this morning," Lena mumbled. Sophia froze. "I went in to get Mom's alarm clock. She told me to fix it yesterday," she replied, her voice still calm. But no one listened. Her mother's eyes turned suspicious. Her father stepped forward, voice sharp. "Then why did the necklace disappear on the same day you stayed home alone?" "I didn't take it, I swear." Sophia backed away, tears threatening to fall. But a child's oath means little when there's no trust. Lena looked down, eyes welling up as if personally offended on their mother's behalf. Her parents said nothing more, just quietly packed Sophia's belongings into an old bag and placed it by the door. Her mother said, "If you didn't do it, then leave and find a way to prove it. But if you did, then face the consequences." No hug, no holding hands. She was pushed out of the house like a stranger. That first night on the street, Sophia curled up at a bus stop. The cold wind pierced through her thin clothes, but what froze her the most wasn't the weather. It was the truth. Lena had thrown her into the abyss. One question echoed in her mind: why they were sisters. They used to sleep in the same bed, laugh together, sneak sweets. And now, with just one sentence, Lena had destroyed her life. Something wasn't right. And the more she thought about it, the more Sophia realized she had to get up. She couldn't let people remember her as the thief daughter. She couldn't let her name be buried under someone else's lie. But Sophia had nothing, no home, no money, no one to believe her. All she had was a broken heart and a will that burned stronger by the second. A few days later, she landed a job as a helper at a small roadside diner. The pay was meager, but the owner was kind, and more importantly, Sophia had a place to start over. Every night, her hands raw from washing dishes, she closed her eyes and whispered, "I'll be back. I'll prove the truth." She started noticing the little details. She remembered Lena saying she had gone into their mother's room, which was true, but not at the time the necklace vanished. And if someone really had taken it, they had to know exactly where it was hidden. Not everyone knew their mother kept the necklace in a fake book box at the bottom of the drawer. Only someone close, very close. The more she thought about it, the more it horrified her. Then one day, while wiping tables, she overheard a female customer talking on the phone. The woman casually mentioned a young girl selling a necklace at the night market, looked like a student. Sophia's heart pounded. She had no proof, But her gut screamed this was a clue. And in that moment, she knew she was no longer the naive, obedient girl she used to be. She would investigate. She would do whatever it took, no matter how long, to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing the sister she once loved the most. Sophia's new life began with a few meager coins, calloused hands, and long sleepless nights filled with the sounds of traffic and cold winds. She did all kinds of work, washing dishes, cleaning, carrying things, at a small eatery on the corner of the market. Every morning she woke up at 5 a.m. Every night she returned close to 11 p.m. exhausted, but never once considering giving up. Because she had one reason to keep going: the truth. Every coin Sophia saved she carefully tucked away in a small box hidden under her bed. Part of it was for survival. The rest was for a greater purpose: to find out who truly took the necklace and why Lena blamed her. She began learning how to observe people, a skill she had been forced to develop back in her hurtful home just to survive. At the eatery, customers came from all walks of life. Some were wealthy, others wandered aimlessly. She learned to tell truth from lies through eyes, through gestures. One day, while taking out the trash, she overheard two young women talking. They mentioned, "A girl who looks rich, dresses stylishly, but keeps going to the night market to sell jewelry." Sophia froze. A spark lit up in her mind. Could it be Lena? She wondered. In Sophia's memories, Lena was always obsessed with luxury, yet never had enough of her own money. Their parents pampered her, but never gave her complete financial freedom. If Lena had really taken the necklace and sold it, then everything started to make sense. Sophia began frequenting the night market every weekend after work. She quietly observed, searching for a familiar figure. Night after night, she saw nothing. But then one drizzly evening, under the dim glow of the streetlights, she saw a young woman, half her face covered with a scarf, whispering as she bargained with an antique dealer. That walk, those hands. Sophia recognized Lena instantly, but instead of confronting her, she quietly turned away. She knew that a direct confrontation now would be useless. There was no proof, only pain. That night, Sophia sat outside her small rental room, hands trembling as she held a warm cup of water. But inside her there was no longer just pain, there was a burning resolve. I won't expose the truth for revenge. I'll do it to reclaim my dignity and to forgive myself. From that day on, Sophia changed. She took an extra job at a nearby library in the early mornings, lighter work but lower pay. Still, she used the time to read, to learn new skills, especially in law, psychology, and finance. One of the library's regulars, Mrs. Margaret, a middle-aged woman who always wore thick sweaters and gold-rimmed glasses, noticed Sophia's unusual dedication. She struck up a conversation, and from there a special relationship began. Margaret didn't ask too many questions. She only said one thing: everyone has a dark chapter, but what makes you different is how you walk through it. With Margaret's guidance, Sophia was introduced to a community legal aid organization. She volunteered there, helping with note-taking, preliminary counseling, and learning how to draft legal complaints and gather evidence. Bit by bit, Sophia rebuilt her life, not with anger, but with knowledge, patience, and integrity. Then one day, Margaret handed her an envelope. Inside was a receipt for a necklace sale, date, time, location, and the seller's name clearly written: Lena W. Sophia froze. The old pain surged up again, but this time she didn't cry. She pressed her lips together, folded the paper, and looked out the window. There's no more doubt. This is the truth. Margaret placed a hand on her shoulder. You have the right to face it, but don't let the truth be just a knife. Let it be the path that leads you to the light. Sophia nodded. She knew she was stepping into a new chapter, not as the innocent girl cast out of her home, but as the woman ready to reclaim the truth for herself. But more than that, she wanted to do it with forgiveness in her heart, refusing to become a bitter version of the sister she once adored. With evidence in hand and pain in her heart, Sophia didn't act right away. She needed time, not to plan revenge, but to ask herself, if the truth comes out, what will happen to the family, to Lena, and to myself? That question kept her awake for many nights. But then, one Sunday afternoon, while shelving books at the library, she received a message from an unknown number. "Mom's in the hospital. Can you come home?" Her heart sank. Those few short words pulled Sophia back to the past, where her mother was the first to hold her hand when she was scared, the one who sang her lullabies every night. But also, the one who looked at her with suspicion and cast her out in anger. Sophia didn't reply. But the next morning she stood at the hospital gate. Her mother lay there, thinner, her face sunken as her liver disease had worsened. Her father stood nearby clutching a cup of water. And Lena, still beautiful, still composed, but her eyes red, stripped of the pride she once wore like armor. Sophia stood silently outside the hospital room. No one noticed her, until her father turned and froze for a moment. Then he stepped forward. No hug, no greeting, just a heavy nod like a fragile bridge reconnecting them to the past. "Why did you come back?" Lena asked, her voice low. "I heard Mom was sick," Sophia replied. She didn't look at Lena. She looked at her mother unconscious on the bed. "No need to pretend anymore," Lena said flatly. Sophia turned. For the first time in years, their eyes locked, not with sweetness or rivalry, but with a silent war layered with emotion. "You still don't feel guilty?" Sophia asked quietly. "All these years, have you never thought about saying sorry?" Lena said nothing. The defiance was gone from her face. Something cracked in her expression. "Sophia," a faint voice called. It was their mother. Sophia rushed to the bedside. Her mother opened her eyes, trying to grab her hand, cold and trembling. "I'm sorry for not believing you, for what I did." Her voice broke. Sophia burst into tears. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to be vulnerable, not from resentment, but because she felt seen and loved again. "It's okay, Mom. I'm not angry. I just want you to get better." Lena turned away, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, she knew everything had changed. The lies she had buried years ago, lies she thought would stay hidden, were now laid bare. Sophia left that evening. But just before she stepped out of the hospital, Lena ran after her and called out. They stood beneath the awning golden sunset, casting long shadows on two faces that once seemed like strangers, now bound by a tangled past. "What do you want?" Lena asked, her voice no longer cold. "Nothing," Sophia answered. "I just want you to tell the truth. Not for me, for Mom." Silence. A bird soared above them, its cry slicing through the heavy stillness. "Back then, I was scared. I had no money. I knew how much Mom loved that necklace. I knew where it was hidden. I took it and saw you passing by the room." Lena's voice trembled. "I knew all I had to do was say you were there. Mom would believe me. She always trusted me more. I was a coward." Sophia closed her eyes and nodded. "I know. What do you want now to turn me in?" "Tell everyone," Lena asked, meeting her gaze. "No," Sophia replied. "I just want you to say it, in front of Mom. I don't need pity. I just need the truth spoken once for justice." A few days later, in that hospital room, still heavy with the smell of disinfectant, Lena knelt by their mother's bedside, crying as she confessed everything. No one said a word for several long minutes that felt like a lifetime. Their mother didn't blame her. Their father remained silent. But for the first time in years, Sophia felt free. She didn't need to win. She just needed release. Weeks later, as their mother recovered, Sophia prepared to leave again. She declined the invitation to return home, but didn't refuse her mother's hug, a long, trembling, heartfelt embrace. Lena walked her to the gate. "Where are you going?" "Farther, to start again." "I'm sorry." Sophia turned and smiled gently. "I know." She walked away into the golden light of sunset, no longer the falsely accused girl she once was, but a free-grown woman, carrying with her the truth and forgiveness. The new city welcomed Sophia with its hurried rhythms, unfamiliar faces, and opportunities hiding behind countless doors. But she wasn't afraid. She had lived through storms, harsh sun, and strong winds no longer scared her. Drawing from her experience working at a community legal aid organization and the skills she had picked up during her hardest times, Sophia applied for a job at a nonprofit that supported the wrongfully accused and women who had suffered abuse. At first, she worked as a secretary, but her meticulous nature, quiet strength, and deep empathy quickly caught the attention of her supervisors. They sent her to a specialized course on trauma counseling. From there, she steadily rose to become the lead advisor of the New Beginnings program, a place where survivors could rebuild their lives and find their footing again. Her name began to be mentioned. A small interview about her journey of overcoming injustice, careful not to name her sister or family, spread across social media. Thousands left emotional comments. Some recognized her, the girl who used to wash dishes at the corner market, the one who walked miles just to study law at the library. Sophia remained simple in how she lived, but now she carried a belief: I didn't just survive, I lived meaningfully. 3 years after leaving the hospital, she was invited to speak at a major women in justice conference. Her name appeared beside famous activists, but what moved people most was the story she told. Spoken in a warm, steady voice with no bitterness, no self-praise, just sincerity. The speech was broadcast live on television, and in a small house at the end of a quiet street, her mother sat, knitting, eyes glistening as she watched the daughter she once pushed away, now standing tall under the spotlight. Her father sat beside her, silent, but he gently squeezed her hand, a quiet apology. Lena also watched the program from her modest apartment. Her life had changed since the truth came out, no longer glamorous. She slowly stepped away from flashy social media and extravagant parties. She learned to live simply, to work genuinely, and to spend time caring for their mother. The truth hadn't destroyed Lena. It had saved her. One afternoon, Sophia returned to her old city for the first time in 3 years. No grand arrival, no announcements. She simply wanted to stop by the diner where it all began, where her rough hands once scrubbed dishes, and where her fragile dreams first took shape. The owner gasped when she saw her, barely recognizing her. Heavens, is that really you, little Sophia from back then? Sophia smiled, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. She sat at her usual table, ordered a steaming bowl of noodles like she used to, and quietly savored the taste of memory. A young employee stared at her, confused. "Who are you?" Everyone keeps staring. Sophia only smiled. "Just someone who once passed through here like you." She then walked down the narrow alley where her old room used to be. Someone else lived there now, but she stood outside for a long while, her heart light. The old wounds were now scars. They didn't hurt, but they would always remind her of the journey. That day, she visited her mother, not at a hospital, but in the small, peaceful home her parents had moved into after selling the old house. Her mother hugged her tightly, hands trembling. "You've made me so proud, but I know what I truly owe you is trust from the beginning." Sophia gently replied, "I don't need you to keep apologizing. Just knowing you never stopped loving me, that's enough." Her father came out and placed an old wooden box in her hands. Sophia opened it. Inside was the necklace from all those years ago. "The person who bought it returned it to me when they learned the truth. We kept it, hoping one day you could hold it without it hurting." Sophia held the necklace in her hands, eyes dry and steady. "Now I can." A few months later, Sophia launched a scholarship fund named The Truth Prevails for students who had experienced injustice but never gave up. At the launch ceremony, she invited her mother as the guest of honor. Lena was there too, for the first time appearing publicly beside her sister, not as a shadow of past mistakes, but as an ally. As Sophia stepped onto the stage, she said, "No one is born to be misunderstood. No one deserves to suffer injustice their whole life. But more importantly, we must never let that injustice turn us into someone unkind." The crowd erupted into applause, and in that moment the spotlight shone on her face, not the girl who had once been cast out, but the woman who had walked through darkness and chose to carry the light. The launch event for the Truth Prevails Scholarship Fund had ended, but its echo remained in the hearts of everyone present that day. Many people came to Sophia afterward, shaking her hand, hugging her, thanking her for daring to tell her story, not to reopen old wounds but to offer hope. That evening, back in her small apartment, Sophia sat by the window, a spot where she could see the city glittering with lights at night. Inside her, there was no anger left, only a gentle question ringing softly. Is it time to return? Not to stay, but to close the chapter. Weeks later, Sophia received a letter from Lena. Not a hurried phone message, but a handwritten letter in a familiar script. In it, Lena spoke of the empty days after the incident, the feeling of losing footing when friends turned away, and the long nights wondering, if I had told the truth back then, maybe things would have been different. At the end of the letter, Lena wrote, I'm not asking for your forgiveness, because I know you owe me nothing. But if one day you want to sit down and call me sister again, then I will still be here. Sophia sat for a long time holding the letter. She didn't cry, nor did she smile. Forgiveness was not something that happened in a moment. It was a journey, and she knew she was ready to take the final steps. One Saturday afternoon, Sophia went to her parents' house. She brought a small cake and an old photo album. Her mother opened the door with a smile full of happiness. Her father still had the habit of brewing tea and silently listening to her stories. This time, after the first cup of tea, Sophia took out an old photo of the two sisters as children, both wearing white dresses, hair tied in pigtails, standing in front of their elementary school gate. She placed the photo on the table. Mom, Dad, I want to invite Lena to have dinner with us. I know, everything is in the past, but maybe it's time we sit together as a real family. Her mother shed tears, her father nodded, and so for the first time in many years, a real reunion dinner was prepared, not out of obligation, but out of healing. Lena came with a small bouquet and a hesitant face. When she saw Sophia waiting at the door, she almost turned away. But then Sophia stepped forward and gently said, Come in, don't stand outside too long, it's cold. That simple sentence felt like an opening to a heart that had long been closed. During the meal, no one mentioned the past, just gentle questions, awkward laughter at first, then gradually genuine. Mom made seaweed soup that both Sophia and Lena loved as kids. Dad told old stories, the family's past picnics, how Lena once walked Sophia to school on a rainy day. After cleaning up, only the two sisters remained in the backyard under the old bougainvillea tree. Lena looked at Sophia, eyes brimming with tears. You don't owe me anything, but I owe you for all the time without you by my side. If one day you need me, I will be there, not to protect but to share the load if you're tired. Sophia placed her hand on her sister's shoulder. You don't owe anything. We just lost each other for a while. Now I think it's time to walk on together. From that day on, Lena began joining some volunteer activities with Sophia. She didn't speak much, quietly, helping organize sorting documents, occasionally driving kids to the center. Gradually, people recognized her as Sophia's sister, not as a shadow of the past, but as part of the present. That connection wasn't a miracle. It was built through small actions, daily efforts, and the belief that people can change if they dare to face their mistakes and dare to move forward with sincerity. The next year, at the one-year anniversary ceremony of the Scholarship Fund, Sophia was invited to speak before hundreds of people. She ended her speech with a line not in the script. If I hadn't been pushed into darkness that day, maybe I wouldn't have seen the light so clearly. Sometimes the worst things open the best paths, and forgiveness is the light at the end of that path. Everyone stood and applauded. In the audience, Lena quietly shed tears, not out of regret, but because finally she saw the light where once there had only been shadows of guilt. Sophia stepped down from the stage, walking amid cheers and admiring eyes. But what made her happiest wasn't the fame or achievements. It was when she turned around and saw her family sitting together, no one pushed away anymore. And the story closed, not with tears or accusations, but with forgiveness. A circle of love wide enough to embrace mistakes, pain, and those brave enough to turn back.